Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I want to say thank you to Social Media Cowboys for sponsoring this week's episode of the Confidence Through Health podcast. If you need help with a website, if you need social media needs for your business, if you need help with AdWords, SEO, all those things that you know you should be doing, but you are too busy to do or you're too confused about, they are the experts that you need in your corner. If you're interested in launching a podcast, such as mine, they help me edit my podcast and do a fantastic job making sure that all of the technical side of it is handled and we launch a nice, neat, edited podcast episode each week. So I want to thank Social Media Cowboys for their continued sponsorship of the Confidence Through Health podcast. You can find them at socialmediacowboys.com, or you can find them as well with other sponsors at confidencethroughhealth.com.
Well, Scott, I want to welcome you to the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Jerry, thank you very much for having me on here. Lovely to meet you and your listeners.
Yep. And so I do want to preface just that you're in Ireland and I'm in Texas. And so if there is any technical difficulty, we'll try and iron that out as we go. But there could be that going on. So for the listeners to know that that's just, part of the world right now. So
it is.
Scott,
it is. We'll deal with the gremlins as they appear, but hopefully there won't be too many of them.
Right. So, I heard your story and saw a little bit about what your journey has been.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have you on to help people that are in similar situations with whether it's the motivation or the inspiration or just the knowledge that there's another option, there's another way. It's not the end of the world if you get a diagnosis that the rest of the world or the media or even the medical community says, nope, this is now your life and it's changed and you're stuck in this situation. So tell us a little bit about like how you came about the diagnosis of Parkinson's. Like how did that whole initial step start?
Yeah, so we're going back about seven and a half years. So 2017, mid 2017, and in the few years up to that, I had a few other injuries, a back injury. I put on quite a bit of weight, wasn't in great shape. I'd let myself go. Typical life was busy. I had young kids. I had to travel quite a bit with work, as so many people do.
Right.
It's hard to get good nutrition at funny places. So, yeah, if you saw a picture of me back then, people did refer. I went on a boys' ski hill, and they did refer to me as Tony Soprano. So I wasn't in great shape. Okay, so I think that's important, because I do think that's no small part of my journey.
Yeah.
And over the course of about 5 or 6 months, I knew my body was doing funky things, but like nothing too major. So let me give an example of that. So whenever I was at rest on the couch watching TV, when I was in a relaxed state, basically, I could my hand would the odd time just twitch, or there was a sensation in my wrist, and didn't think too much about it because my prolapse disc, the pain and the movements did tend to go into my left wrist and left ankle. Didn't get too worried about it, but over the course of a handful of months, that deteriorated. And then one night I was out taking our dog around the block for last pee of the day. And as I went to turn the corner, my right foot, I was turning left around the block, and my right foot stuck to the sidewalk, to the pavement.
Oh, wow.
And no pain, but I just sort of half stumbled because it was like my foot was glued to the pavement, to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it was really, really odd experience, Terry, And I stared at it. The dog was staring at me. What's going on here? And like I say, there was no pain.
Yeah.
It was just that my leg and my foot and my toes were pointing that way when, they should have been turning that way.
Hmm.
And it only lasted a matter of seconds, but I kind of knew then, there's something definitely not right here.
Yeah.
And spoke to some family members and some friends about it. Not too many, because I did keep the whole Parkinson's thing quite private for quite a long time.
Hmm.
But anyway, I saw my family doctor, my GP,
Hmm.
and he referred me to the neurologist. So usual route in,
Right.
and I had a I had a neurological assessment. He then referred me to what's known as a DAT scan, which in the UK we're under the National Health Service. It's very different to the
Hmm.
US, and that is generally considered to be the empirical evidence of whether you have Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
So that all happened over the course of, I don't know, sort of 4 months,
Okay.
4 or 5 months. And I think I then become more conscious of that hand is, it is shaking a bit. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't permanent classic tremor that people see and whenever they associate, maybe Michael J. Fox would be
Right.
a big media personality. There's a lot of people in the media and celebrities that have it, but I did start to become aware of it, and I suppose my energy was flowing that direction, so my awareness came with it.
Hmm.
And then December 2017, so 4 or 5 months later, I got the phone call, and it confirmed that the results of my brain scan were positive for Parkinson's
Hmm.
disease.
And
It's just coming
so,
up to Christmas.
right. In the,
Yeah.
for people that aren't watching but that are listening, like
Hmm.
you're not, at least you don't look to be, appear to be like a 65, 70, 75-year-old person that you would typically think Parkinson's affects. I mean, you mentioned Michael J. Fox, he had it early, and there's definitely, age doesn't necessarily play a factor in it.
Yeah, so I'm 58 at the minute.
Yeah.
See, I was 51, so maybe creeping into what people you'll see the abbreviation YOPD, young onset Parkinson's disease. So I was sort of maybe at the back end of that.
Yeah.
Um, if you saw me 3 years ago, you wouldn't say I looked 65 or 70, I hope,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't see the man that you see in front of you today.
Yeah. And so when you got that diagnosis, like as far as, and I know you've got experience both from coaching and like some military background, and so there's a thought process that I know people with that background go through that's a little bit different than maybe somebody that doesn't have that hasn't had as much discipline installed in their life and coaching the discipline side of things. Like, how was your approach maybe different from other people you saw going through that same initial stages of diagnosis and treatment?
I mean, it's hard for me to comment exactly about other people's situations,
Sure.
but at the time, let's just go back a few. Let's back it up a bit. You
Okay.
said about my previous experience, military, my discipline. I would say that whenever I look back and analyze, and I've done a lot of that
Mhm.
naturally, at the time, there wasn't a conscious decision or thought or plan. I think that was just in my um with my mindset, my latent mindset, and I probably did it unconsciously.
Mhm.
So I don't remember thinking, right, I'm going to drop a battle plan and here's my mission, I'm going to do all that.
Yeah.
But I know for certain that whenever I got it, I very quickly made a choice that I could embrace it. I could run towards the bad news, the negative news. I was handed some material about patient support. And whenever you went online on the FAQ section, there was I've just been diagnosed, and there was an
Mhm.
awful lot of comments from other people that had been diagnosed and their carers. And what I saw was, I don't want to sound like a bad person here,
Yeah.
Jerry, but it was very negative.
Right.
he was like, OMG, I've just been diagnosed. And I mean, yeah, it did hit me, of course, but
Sure.
I I very consciously closed the lid on that box.
Hmm.
And I made a choice that I was not going to let it define me.
Hmm.
And I wasn't going to let it dominate my life.
Yeah.
And looking back, fast forward, 7 years, and I've been effectively symptom free for 3 years. I know that's been a huge part of why my journey with Parkinson's is a lot better than most.
Hmm.
I think, to be kind, I do need to say that I was caught early. I think I'm very
Oh,
in
sure.
tune with my body.
Yeah.
I I kind of read it early, and I did push my doctor and my neurologist. And he did say, you sort of borderline whether I'm going to go for a scan. So I think I'm pretty in tune with my body.
Mhm.
But yeah, that negativity, I just put that away. And whenever I put it away, I didn't stick my head in the sand.
Yeah.
I was eyes wide open.
Hmm.
I was super informed, and I was hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
But I definitely made a choice in those very, very early days and weeks that I was going to choose not to become a victim to this disease.
Yeah. It,
And that makes a huge difference. And the other people
yeah.
I know that have experienced something similar to me, our mindsets are very similar.
Hmm. Well, and it doesn't have to just be Parkinson's, right? That could be anything,
But yeah,
anything
no,
that the world says is a negative impact on you or a trauma impact on you. It is making that, and not to say that you can't have those moments of, you know, questioning why me, why do I have to go through this, or those types of things, but not, like you said, not letting it define you as this is a negative and I'm a victim and woe is me type of thing.
yeah, you made a really good point. Yeah, of course, I had dark moments.
Hmm.
I wasn't high-fiving the thing.
Right.
But yeah, you've described that really accurately. Yeah, I had those dark moments, but I thought about them, I considered them, pushed them to the side. But yeah, absolutely right. It's not just Parkinson's disease. It's pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Um, Anything that is considered to be trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Canadian physician Gabor Mate,
Yeah.
but I was fortunate enough to be asked to go to a long event of his in the summer as a guest. And he was amazing. I
Yeah.
wasn't overly familiar with his work, but he sort of starts with trauma isn't the event,
Hmm.
whether that be a bereavement, a divorce, or if you're a first responder in the military, it could be something pretty horrific.
Sure.
But it's how you respond to the event.
Hmm.
That's what the trauma is.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really understand why I'd been invited to that conference, but within the first 5 minutes of listening to him,
Hmm.
I fully understood. Yeah,
Yeah.
you make a choice,
Yeah.
and how you choose and how you deal with that, which I'm sure we'll come on to,
Hmm.
that defines how traumatic it is.
Right. Well, and then
I don't
that
think I
gives
knew that.
you,
I didn't know that 7 years ago, Jerry.
yeah, and that gives you, that gives you more power, right? Not necessarily in a like
Definitely.
you can't necessarily control what the disease is doing to you or what that negative impact has for you when you step out your house to go through your day. But it gives you
Yeah,
the power to be able to say, no, this isn't going to take me down to that negative space and put me in that, turmoil and that head spin and that questioning part. And I'm going to rise above that.
yeah, I agree with that. That's true. And maybe just go back to your point there about we can't control the progression
Mhm.
of the disease. I think that's maybe questionable,
Yeah,
because if you're always worried, if you're always depressed, if it overwhelms you, as it naturally will try and do,
sure.
if you let that consume you and you have a lot of anxiety, the cortisol, the needle's
Mhm.
just going to be in the red
Yeah, that's true.
permanently,
Yeah,
and that has a very negative effect. Stress has a huge effect on our physical symptoms.
right.
So I think you can control its progression.
Yeah.
I believe
Well,
that's what's happened to me.
yeah. Well, and so what did you do that was maybe, obviously you were visiting with doctors, you were getting, the tests, you were figuring out what degree and severity and everything, all those things,
Mm.
right? Like, what was the turning point for you when you said, okay, I'm I'm gonna go start looking at
I lost.
exercise?
Sorry, I lost the last bit of the question. Could you repeat that?
It's okay. What was the turning point for you when you said, okay, I know the medical people are all telling me this is the traditional way of doing things. I'm going to turn towards exercise and CrossFit to help myself out.
That was what did I do? I'll tell you what I did. I didn't act fast enough.
Oh,
It took
really?
me a couple of years. Yeah, yeah, it did. But just to go back to your question, let's slice that up into two parts.
Hmm.
So the first part about, you know, what did I think about the advice I was given about the treatment? And
Hmm.
lots of people listening to this won't have Parkinson's, they'll have something else. But my story, I can only tell you my lived experience.
Sure.
And what was really quite shocking. I mean, obviously, conventional medicine does brilliant things.
Hmm.
It's very much chest, heart, stroke, cancer focused
Sure.
naturally because it's one those are the biggest killers.
Right.
But I remember walking away from my first post scan diagnosis one to one with my consultant neurologist. And basically, the summary, Jerry, was okay. So it's a degenerative, incurable neurological condition. We don't know what causes it. We don't have any treatment for it. It's incurable. I'll see you every 6 months. You're only at probably stage one at the minute. It goes to
Hmm.
five. Five is when you're getting into terminal.
Yeah.
So it's caught early. So we'll see you every 6 months. Whenever it gets really bad, hopefully that'll be a few years. But when it deteriorates, we'll give you some medication.
Hmm.
And the medication is, in a very very rough summary, is it's artificial. I mean, levodopa or something like that.
Right.
Because Parkinson's is my brain's inability to generate and regulate enough dopamine, which is the command signals, if you think of a computer analogy, for every aspect of physical movement, whether that be
Right.
conscious, with me going like that, or my lungs currently moving.
Right.
So, what did I think about, the care? I mean, the care was exceptional, but there was no care to be given. And that really shocked me,
Yeah.
and I did know that that there was no real cure, but it was really blunt. It was really bleak.
Hmm.
And for people with similar diseases, and I have a friend who recently was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, I believe ALS is how you refer to it.
Hmm. Yep.
And it's just bleak and blunt conversations.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to put myself in the same box as ALS suffers. That wasn't my intention. Paul's mindset was superb on it as well, which has helped him and his family massively. Um, yeah, so that's pretty grim, quite shocking. And
Yeah.
if you're feeling quite nervous and quite apprehensive about it, I would imagine hearing that,
Yeah.
you know, pat in the head, out the door, see you in six
Right.
months. And when you're really not great, we'll give you a few drugs.
Right. Yeah. That's
That's
pretty
quite
bleak.
demoralizing,
Yeah.
you know? So that was definitely a kick in the you know what. And I've had a bit of a setback. Okay, so to answer the second part of your question,
Hmm.
what did I do about it? It probably took me a couple of years. No, not probably. It did take me more than 2 years
Hmm.
to act on it, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm not sure why I took so long.
Yeah.
Have you any guidance on that one? I really don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, life was busy with the work. I traveled a lot. So I live in Northern Ireland, so I'd be back and forth to London a lot on, early flights,
Hmm.
and but it took a long time to act on it.
Yeah.
And if anybody's in a similar position and sort of diagnosed recently, I hope they act faster than I did. And I've done a lot of work with people. I say work with people, checked in, mentored them very unofficially
Sure.
with predominantly Parkinson's,
Hmm.
and a lot of them acted really fast.
Yeah.
There's a man whose his story is nearly identical to mine, and he was on it less than 7 days into diagnosis.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
doing this, the
Yeah.
nutrition, that, cycling. I'm
Yeah.
going to join CrossFit. I'm going to talk to Scott. And funny, I hadn't heard from him in 18 months. He sent me a message yesterday. So, I did nothing for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a regret.
Right.
And over those 2 years, my symptoms deteriorated. Uh, Probably got to level 2 Parkinson's. So, in plain English, my hand tremor was more frequent. I would get
Hmm.
really bad leg cramps, which are so sore. I had very disturbed sleep, which is very, very common.
Hmm.
I had hallucinations and visualization, also common, constipation, very occasional, thankfully, very occasional urinary incontinence,
Yeah.
erectile dysfunction, and then sometimes just some mad, crazy hand movements. And I remember
Hmm.
being in a meeting, oh, and my phone just went straight across the boardroom and
Yeah.
hitting the wall, hit across the wall. Everybody's going, "You okay, Scott?"
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think I do look back and I question myself on this all the time. It seems that I needed to be in a slightly more painful place. So the,
Hmm.
the curve had to go down here
Yeah.
where the pain was great enough for me to put in the work
Right.
to get to where I hope to get to, and which I did get to, which
Yeah.
obviously is it makes it a lot easier to put in the work when you're seeing results, right?
Sure. Of course.
But they're not overnight and it's not a straight line.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not by any stretch. And so during that initial 2 years, was there a time in like researching other options, or was it more of just okay, like life as usual, just deal with the symptoms as they come up, and then you finally hit that breaking point where you said, no, this is enough.
I mean, over that period for sure, I always had my nose in the information trough and I had
Hmm.
great support from friends and family doing that. It was a small circle, but here's the depressing thing. There wasn't much to find.
Really?
The research was you've got an incurable degenerative neurological condition,
Oh my gosh.
and apart from some really, really mad stuff on the outliers, page like I got to page 73 of the Google search.
Yeah.
I was all over this.
Yeah.
There was very little to find.
Hmm.
Now that's moving and moving fast, thankfully.
Yeah.
And don't ask me why, but Parkinson's disease, I'm told, in the Western world is it's the fastest growing disease currently in the
Really?
Western world. Yeah.
Mm. Wow.
So, and it's a lot more prominent. There's now that I'm looking for it, it finds me.
Right.
My phone will be listening to this, even though it's turned off right now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I did. I was hungry for knowledge. Uh, wasn't a lot to find.
Yeah. That's sad.
I couldn't find it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it, like you said, when it's something that you're actively seeking, especially in today's internet world, like if there's something out
Mm,
there, it's going to come to you, right? Like, and I think we've
yeah.
all experienced that. You type in one little search for something random that, all of a sudden you get all kinds of information from it shot to you from the browsers
Yeah.
and social media and all this. And so it's like, I can only imagine if you're really trying to get something, then all of a sudden the amount of stuff that should be sent to you, would be almost overwhelming as far as like, how am I going to have the time to look through all this?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. I mean, the efficiency of the media and the internet is scary, but
mhm,
yeah, they'll just There was nothing forthcoming.
Yeah. So you turned to exercise. What turned you on to exercising?
So I was a bit disgusted with where I got to, disgusted with myself,
Hmm.
where I got to, the weight I put on, and irk. I mean, I was always moving and walking. I wasn't sort of sitting on the sofa with my Doritos,
Sure.
but I just thought, right, enough's enough. Playtime's over.
Yeah.
And my symptoms were starting to really, really impact my life a lot more. And I then it's the one good thing for myself for the pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever
Mhm.
label you put on it, is we were all forced into a situation.
Yeah.
And that was the catalyst for, right, you know, you're not going to coach rugby, you're not going out the door to work, you're not getting on an airplane.
Yeah.
We all thought it was going to be 6 weeks, right? So we've got 6 weeks here.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, let's put that to good use.
Hmm.
And I had this thought, in spite of everything that I'd read or not read or couldn't find, I just thought, well, you know, let's step back from a medical perspective. I'm not medical.
Hmm.
Let's step back from a medical perspective. And, you know, it's my body. It's a physical part of my body that doesn't work.
Hmm.
It's called my substantia nigra. So if I want bigger biceps, I'm going to do bicep curls. If I want bigger pecs, I'm going to bench press.
Right.
And so it goes on.
Yep.
What if, what if I exercise with a fair degree of intensity,
Hmm.
the part of my brain?
Yeah.
Is it possible that my glutes and my abs and my triceps and yada, 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 is it possible I could make it stronger by exercising it intensely?
Right.
So that was my, that was my mission to find out. That became my mission.
Yeah.
So I started exercising intensely. It was all in the backyard
Hmm.
with whatever stuff we had kicking around the house.
Right.
And I started exercising hard. And I got a real buzz from it.
Sure.
Kind of I refound my mojo.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are out there just going, oh yeah, I've never really done this, I've never done that, I'm not in great shape, I've got sore this, I've got sore that. Please don't let that deter you.
Yeah.
Do what you can. Because if you saw the state of me in March and April 2020,
Hmm.
I guarantee you I was a carbon copy of what some people might say, oh God, no, I'm not going to lift a dumbbell or do any of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because it's all within our own body's capacity,
Right.
So Jerry, you look like a fit man. I suspect you'd run a mile a bit faster than me.
Yeah.
Um, so my body will be at its capacity, whatever that is,
Right.
wherever the needle is on the dial.
Hmm.
Don't worry about where your starting point is, as long as you're moving that needle in the right
Exactly.
direction.
Yep.
But I had a very intentional plan as well as just general exercise, which is great for everybody and great for Parkinson's and, well, just people getting old, right? To be able to fall down and get up is pretty good.
Yep. Yep.
We're going to need that as we get old,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's called a burpee in
Yeah.
the gym, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but rather than go for a run or use a spin bike or a cross trainer, some of those items we had at home,
Hmm.
it was do stuff that you have no clue about, something where you have to think as you're doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
So a good example of that would be we had a punch bag. So I got the boxing gloves out.
Hmm.
And rather than just go bang, 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 put the headphones on, snuck the phone to the wall, got a few apps, got on YouTube, and was listening to instructions. So jab,
Ah.
cross, jab, jab,
Yep.
uppercut.
Yep.
So I was working hard, I was sweating, I was getting a good workout, but everything I was doing, I was following instructions.
Yep.
Now I had no idea what was going to happen with this, and I don't know if it's a coincidence, but
Mhm.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
And it made the exercise a lot more fun because just being on a
Oh yeah, can
Stairmaster, or yeah, it's pretty demoralizing,
yeah,
So that's what I did. I did that throughout the lockdowns and throughout 2020.
yeah.
And, with a couple of dumbbells and a kettlebell and a few bits of kit and YouTube and all the apps you can get,
Mhm.
it's not hard to find stuff.
Right.
And that's what I did. That's where it started.
Yeah.
And currently was a lot more intentional about my diet and my nutrition.
Mhm.
So I started doing something I refer to as time restricted eating. Some
Right.
people call it fasting,
Right. Yep.
and a combination of the exercise and the fasting. I didn't like do anything crazy with the fasting windows, but before 8:30 in the morning, no calories came into my body,
Hmm.
and after 6:30, no calories came into my body. Now
Right.
that was really easy to do, wasn't it, during lockdown,
Sure.
as I
Yeah.
wasn't commuting, I wasn't in an airport, and I just try to stay off the crappy carbs. And so there was an initial move towards nutrition. I'm a lot more knowledgeable about that now, but yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Exercise, nutrition, time restricted eating, and the magic started to happen.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, a lot of that information is out there like for free, right? You just have to look for it and
Yeah,
like, what in this one of the things that yeah, I'm a runner and I love to run, but I always tell people like, when they look to me for exercise advice or whatever, I'm like, well, yeah, I can help you with running, I can help you with other stuff. There's not necessarily one perfect plan. The perfect plan is what you enjoy and will do, right?
yeah. If you
And
don't enjoy it,
that's
it's hard to be motivated for it, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
so, finding that piece, and then and you've touched on this a little bit with other things, but like remembering who you are and it's your journey and it's not somebody else's. And so if you're going to a gym, not to be worried about other people are looking at me, I'm not the same shape as other people, or I can't lift the same amount, or I can't jog on the treadmill at the same speed they are for the same time they are. Like all that comparison stuff is needs to be thrown out the window, right? Because we need to go in going, this is my journey. And as long as I can move the needle for me, that's all that matters.
yeah, absolutely. So important. And that's such a valid point. Yeah, as long as you're moving the needle.
Mhm.
1% a day, who knows? But
Right,
try not to stay static and definitely don't go backwards. And if you can move forward.
right.
And I think that probably takes me very naturally to how I end up walking into a gym, a CrossFit gym.
Hmm.
So the way it dropped off, my symptoms had absolutely started to go in reverse. So, XYZ used to happen and it wasn't happening. And it was crazy to watch and to experience, but obviously very grateful that it did.
Yeah.
But I knew that I was getting into a bit of a rut,
Hmm.
and I was finding it hard to challenge myself
Hmm.
neurologically and learning stuff. I was kind of at my capacity, and therefore my motivation started
Right.
to drop a bit.
Yeah.
So fortuitously, then the the COVID regulations allowed gyms to open up. I can't remember when that was. That was about, I don't know, 14 months later, whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
No, I was only outside, and like it was April, so it's still cold and wet in Ireland.
Hmm.
But two things. A friend of mine, Barry, he was always mad CrossFit. He's Irish, he'd moved to London. A bit of a CrossFit bore in some regards, but
Yeah.
he was always very evangelical about it. Similar age to me, but much fitter man than me.
Yeah.
He's 7 or 8 years younger, but he's not a youngster.
Sure.
Um, that he sort of said he had talked about CrossFit. And then I referenced that, I went to page 73 on Google search. I
Mhm.
don't know if it was page 73,
Yeah.
but I had sort of remembered in my early days of research about a husband and wife who dragged dad along to CrossFit. and he had some chronic disease. So he sort of was dragged along to a CrossFit gym, at the age of 70, whatever it was.
Mhm.
And he thought, yeah, I remember that. So I went with vigor and speed and tried to find this bloody article.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it, but it was in my head. I
Yeah.
knew I'd read it. So between what Barry had said to me just in conversations previously, nothing to do with Parkinson's or me,
Yeah.
and that article, I knew enough that, okay, so CrossFit, you do some pretty mad, stupid stuff and some
Yep.
crazy stuff,
Yep.
but you do lots of stuff that I have no experience of doing.
Hmm.
Some of it with the barbell's quite technical.
Sure.
So I walked in and thought, I'm not going to say anything to any of the owners, because I was feeling pretty normal at this point.
Right.
And I walked in and just said, yeah, I want to join up. Now, the world had been in lockdown for ages, so the whole world was going to gyms.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was one of many,
Yeah.
but yeah, I found my tribe. I definitely found my tribe. And more to the point, like every day I was walking in and doing stuff that I'd never done before and couldn't do. So much, my brain was on fire as much as my body and my lungs.
Right.
And here, there's plenty of it I still can't do. So, like 3 years in, I'm still learning, and my brain
Yeah.
hurts quite a lot still,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think the one point I would like to maybe discuss, and I think it's sometimes overlooked,
Hmm.
is I think humans in every walk of life are designed not to be solo and alone. I
Oh
think they're
yeah.
designed to
Hmm.
function in a community, in a
Yep.
tribe, which is kind
Yep.
of a bit of an overused word.
Yeah.
But I'd been members of the standard commercial gyms. It was cheap and didn't cost money. I never went,
Yeah.
If I did go, how efficient was it? Probably not really.
Right.
And then go back to the point you just made. I was like oh God, I feel really out of place here.
Hmm.
I feel awkward here.
Right.
I'm out of shape. I go on a machine, I haven't a clue what I'm doing.
Right.
So that had been my gym experience. And yet I still paid the monthly subscription. It probably cost me $400 a visit, to be
Yeah.
honest. So
Yeah.
we got rid of that. So that was the other thing about going into my CrossFit gym at CrossFit Belfast was I very quickly realized that there was no judgment,
Right.
and the bald fat guy was getting as much support and love as a 26-year-old,
Hmm.
4-year, really, really competitive athlete,
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that was hugely important. And I think COVID has not done the world a service where people now seem to want to work from home. They
Right.
want to be alone.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's convenient and it saves money, but I think being part of a community and a tribe is just elevates your performance, whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I 100% agree. And, a lot of research, especially in the last decade, that's come out about longevity and the things that we can do to not just live longer, but live active, healthy lives longer, right? That
Yeah.
health span, not lifespan. And so many things point to, do you have a community? Do you have and it doesn't have to be, I'm connected to 50 people all the time, but do you have that tight knit group that you see all the time, right? That you're always connected to, that more than just, and I think this is one of the reasons why so many, that divorce has been so big, and continues to grow for the segment of people that the kids are out of the house and now husband and wife don't know what to do, and they figure
Hmm.
out that they're no longer the people that they thought they were, and they get divorced. And I think part of that goes along to, if you don't go out in the community and have other people around and just rely on one person, then eventually like you have to have more than that. And you definitely can't just rely on yourself, and so
No,
having,
I agree with that. But I would also say you need to rely on yourself. You know,
sure.
only Scott's responsible for my
Well, yeah.
achievements and my
Yeah.
happiness. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Community is so important. And we've
Yeah.
lost that a bit
Yeah.
because we're all staring at screens
Right.
and talking to somebody on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, the endless platforms.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's not friendship. That's not
Yeah.
community.
And the thing that you don't get that
I
I
don't
know
know how
you
I
get,
don't know how we fix that.
right. Well, and I know you get this through CrossFit. Um, and I know that sports teams get it, because I coach a lot of youth, high school age athletic, and you see that, okay, you've got a completely different level of ability in people, right? Whether it's the
Yeah.
actual physical ability or their ability to comprehend, the strategy of what we're trying to do, right? And
Mm.
so like you may see somebody at CrossFit that they can't lift as much, but they can do the lift more precisely with less weight, right? Like because they can get their body to go, okay, I can activate this.
Yeah.
And being able to
Uh,
talk
uh,
to those people when that happens,
yeah.
right? And somebody comes up to you and goes, "Oh man, I wish I could be able to do this," and you realize, oh, not everybody's perfect. Everybody has struggles.
Has my coach been talking to you before this? He's always saying, Scott, yeah, Niall, he's an amazing coach. Take some weight off the bar.
Right?
Let's work on the movement and the precision.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, whether somebody's lifting 25K, sorry, we work in kilograms,
Yep.
25
Yep.
kilograms or 65, it's absolutely irrelevant.
Yep.
Absolutely irrelevant at my gym.
Yep.
So yeah, the physical side has been huge part of it. And I'm now 3 years, I say symptom free. It's not 100% symptom free. I've had a few things that you think, hmm, that sort of resembles a Parkinson symptom.
Right.
So it might not be, it's the odd twitch, but
Yeah.
you get to 58 and you're lifting heavy things, you do get muscle spasms, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So, but all the standard motor symptoms, etc. Thankfully, I've not had those for 3 years and haven't been on medication for longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, the exercise is a really important part, and I don't think I realized this in the moment, and I alluded to that earlier, that your mindset and your outlook
Mhm.
is is so important.
Yeah.
And that's a massive part of it.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people and had conversations both in real life and online about this. And somebody pushed back and said, mindset, growth mindset, that's all bah humbug.
Mhm.
It's so overused. And yeah, maybe it is overused, but my response to that gentleman was, I find it hard that people just disbelieve it and just think it's bumpkin
Mhm.
because history and
Yeah.
probably your life is is littered with examples of just that. I go, oh,
Yeah.
what do you mean by that? I goes 1954. One of the biggest feats of athleticism happened when somebody ran a 4 minute mile.
Right.
That was regarded as one
Impossible.
of the biggest impossible,
Yeah.
you know, and yet somebody did it. Now,
Yeah.
the punchline to this story is 4 minute mile was then run three further times in 1954.
Yeah.
So, history is literally littered with it.
Mhm.
So it is hugely important.
Yep.
And I would encourage people to run towards that and have belief in that. That it's really quite astounding
Yeah.
what that can change.
Yeah.
And even in your own life, I had this conversation with one of my daughters recently. I said, well, the first time as a child that you jumped off the top diving board at the swimming pool,
Right.
it was such a big thing.
Yeah.
It took you, I don't know, like months to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But once you've done it a few times, up the stairs,
Yep. Yep.
you know? So yeah, mindset is so important.
Yep.
If you think
No,
you
it's
can or you think you can't, you're right.
yeah. No, I can vividly, yeah, you mentioned that, and I can immediately go back and remember myself walking up those stairs and walking right back down them, going, nope,
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
happening. I see that, that's not happening.
mhm, yeah.
And eventually it did, right? Um, but yeah, it is. Mindset is, and that's where I think, like you said earlier, like making that decision, that conscious decision, and not just going like, okay, well, let's just see what happens, but making that decision to say, no, I'm not allowing those negative things to happen. Like they may
That's
happen, but I'm not going to allow them to take hold of me.
a great point. And I think it's a starting point. You've
Mhm.
got to have a bit of curiosity and a degree of intention.
Mhm.
That's how it starts. People say,
Yeah.
well, what would you recommend? What's a good way to go about dealing with all the bad stuff that happens? My brand is Thrive Happens. Shit happens,
Yeah.
and that's not going to stop happening.
Right.
How you deal with it and the outcome, it's my opinion
Yeah.
that you have a fair degree of choice over that. But
Yeah.
you've got to have that curiosity. You've
Yeah.
got to have that intent,
Mhm.
which is so you pretty much I'm agreeing with what you've just said, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. But I think and it's knowing that no matter how bad it gets, no matter what comes around the corner at you, and because those things will happen, like and without any warning whatsoever. Like people obviously they get in car wrecks every day that
Yeah,
that change their lives, and it wasn't their fault. Somebody else did something, whether it was drunk driver or just ran a stoplight or whatever it is.
yeah,
Things happen. It's like, okay, well, this isn't what I was expecting today, and definitely not the next 6 months or 2 years or however long it takes to recover from those things. But yeah, I think what you've said is that, like, that your perspective of where you are and how you're going to let the negative stuff be a part of your life when it happens is what decides how your life is going to be.
100%.
Yeah. And it's great to have people that get, you know, diagnosed with something like Parkinson's, that when you, which I'm sure you did, when you look at it, you Google search it, you look at it in the media, you look at all the medical journals, and the vast majority of it is a pretty bleak existence from this point.
Yeah, the stage 4 or 5, it's pretty grim,
Mhm. And
pretty
it doesn't
grim.
have to be,
No,
and that's one of the things that I've learned from other people I've
absolutely.
had on.
And the journey doesn't, and the journey,
Go ahead.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be.
Mhm.
And as we were talking before we started recording, there's been quite a lot of media on this in the UK, Europe, and the US. And I've talked to an awful lot of people, and I really should have probably said this at the beginning. I'm not medical.
Mhm.
I'm not your therapist. I'm not a
Right,
guru.
right.
I'm just a regular dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's gonna happen to you. And there's a good cohort of people that check in with me, and I do know what's going on with them. And I've come across people who have had similar experiences to me.
Mhm.
I've had some people that I check in with on a very regular basis, and their symptoms haven't improved, but they haven't progressed. Maybe
Right.
that's how it was going to go anyway.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I think if we can just take the Parkinson's disease out of this conversation for a second, I don't know how old you are, Jerry. You look a lot younger than me, but it's probably because you're a lot more athletic than me. But we're going to get old, and you're going to fall over, and
Right.
broken hip. And what is it, like 30% of people over 65 with a broken hip don't survive 12 months?
Yep.
And I've done this in cafes when I've been talking to people about this. I just get up and I sort of walk back and I fall over and actually think of falling over, and then I just jump up again. It's doing a burpee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, regardless of if you're fit and healthy, if you've got a chronic disease, if you do nothing, you don't have that strength,
Hmm.
then, your latter years are going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So even those people that aren't having their symptoms reversed or not are not experiencing what I've experienced, which I'd have to say is the majority.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're going to fall over, you want to do that from a strong base with a bit of core, and you
Yeah.
know how you get up. Like it's
Yeah.
win-win.
Yeah.
And ditto with the nutrition.
Right.
The stuff we are putting into our bodies now in the Western world,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
you know, and I know it looks like USA is going to possibly have a bit of a shift in 2025 on that, from what the media
We'll
tells
see.
me, but we'll see exactly, but yeah, it can't be good for us.
Right.
Just people sort of say, oh, well, you're not a scientist. And I goes, yeah, I'm not a scientist, but let me tell you, whenever I was a teenager, if mum got a loaf of bread, it would start to go moldy in 4 days.
Right.
If we got a pint of milk, it would start to go off after 4 days.
Yep.
I goes, my milk now has like 2.5 week. My
Yeah.
fresh milk is like
Yeah.
a 2 week sell by
Yeah.
expiry date.
Yeah.
My bread just stays fresh forever.
Right.
That's because all the crap they're putting in it.
Yep.
And it's really hard not to consume it. And the whole planet is just, you know,
Yep. No, when
just
I
taking
when
those.
I first started looking at research on nutrition and changing my life, um, from a health standpoint about 8 years ago, that was one of my key things that I would tell people. They'd say like, "Oh, what should I eat?" I said, look at the date on the package, and if it says it's good on the shelf for another year, then the stuff that you're eating is gonna stick in your body, and like that's it's not making you healthy for a year. It's doing other things for a year. Like, and it
Yeah,
may not stick in there for a year, but
it has the
it's not
ability to.
natural. It's not natural.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the scary piece. So,
yeah.
well,
So yeah,
Scott,
no, it's win-win in
yeah,
my opinion.
yeah. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I want to give you the opportunity to like, I know that you've helped people with other people with Parkinson's diagnosis, or just to be an inspiration to be like, so how can people like find more information about you? Is there, you have a YouTube, what do you have that people can look at?
Yeah, so I've done that. Thank you for asking. I've done this a lot on private accounts, and we've just rebranded to Thrive Happens.
Okay.
And we'll maybe put the link down below on this,
Yeah.
Terry, but it's in its infancy. But LinkedIn, if you put Scott Hanley into YouTube or Google, there's quite a lot about my story. And
Mhm.
then on social, so Facebook and Instagram, at Thrive Happens, there'll be a more personal and more up to date and regular communication, and
Yeah.
you'll have the ability to engage with myself and others.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely link those, um, so people can connect, because I think, one of the, like we talked about community, one of the big pieces of that community when you're struggling with something is having somebody in your wheelhouse that you can talk to, or that you can at least gather information from, that goes, oh, they were where I was and they're on the other side already.
Yeah, I haven't done some BS course on the internet for $79.
Mhm.
I've no professional qualification. It's
Yeah.
100% lived experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agreed in the community.
Yeah.
So I plan to build that in 2025. And it would be great if some beautiful things happen from that, Jerry. So
Yep.
thanks for helping me out with that part
Of
of the
course.
journey.
No, I applaud you for what you're doing, and obviously for the hard work that you've put in, because I know it wasn't easy. Like, not just battling Parkinson's, but battling the medical community in some of these things, and and then of course, putting in the work. Like, the exercise is not an easy piece. Like, that's something that it's not just wake up and go do 30 or an hour of exercise and be like, oh yeah, that was easy. Like you said, it's pushing yourself, and it's making yourself work hard, sweat hard, and
Yeah.
it's not easy. And that is a big piece. And so I applaud you for being able to put yourself through all those things and come out this side of it, be able to help people.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. My motivation was pretty great,
Yeah.
so that makes it easier. But yeah, you got to put in the work, and I'm not as consistent as I should be
Mhm.
at times. I haven't been very consistent the last 3 months for various reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to do it.
Yep.
That's how you develop resilience.
Yep.
Absolutely.
No, that's perfect. So, Scott, I want to thank you again for being a guest. It's been great.
Jerry, my pleasure. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.